Hello there, everybody. My name is Cami Vogue, and today I'll be reviewing the short film Loop. Loop is directed by Erica Milsom and is a part of the Pixar Sparkshort series, which is a series that's dedicated to basically giving artists that work a part of Pixar a project that they can work on for a low budget. It could be a little more experimental in nature, tackle probably some more mature themes that aren't necessarily for young kids, and just give some artists a way to really break some boundaries for Pixar, as well as just the animation world in general. So with that in mind, Loop follows the story of Renee and Marcus. Renee is a nonverbal autistic girl, and Marcus is, as described by Pixar, a chatty boy. Renee and Marcus are paired up together to go on a canoeing trip together, to go do a round together. And what ends up happening is that Marcus doesn't really want to be there, as Renee, as he views, is a little difficult to work with. However, as they go through this trip, they learn a lot about each other, and especially Marcus learns how to view the world through Renee's eyes. So with all of that in mind, I really thought this film was pretty good, actually. For low budget, this is actually pretty great animation. I mean, yeah, there's some scenes where there's like movement that's a little bit jerky and things like that. Not all of the background animation is as detailed as is usually the Pixar standard. However, these are also very low budget artist projects, so I can't really hold it against Erica Milsom for, not having the most incredible animation in the world here. However, the animation is still very good, and there's especially a lot of detail to the characters' faces here, as that's really where the emotional centers are. With that in mind too, given that this story really is about learning how to empathize with Renee in this sense, given that she is a nonverbal autistic character, among the first that I've ever even seen, not even just in animation, but really in any popular film for that matter. This film does a really good job using both cinematography, sound design, and narrative to help show how Marcus is understanding the world through Renee's perspective. They go through numerous things of like sensory overload and things like that, touching grass and things like that, and how much that means to Renee, just the physical sensation, and how Marcus begins to understand that, and how we as an audience can also begin, at least, to understand what that might feel like for Renee. And so with that in mind too, I mean, really all of this is just really untouched territory for, Pixar, Disney, really animation studio, to choose two protagonists who are characters of color, one of which is not neurotypical for that matter. She's neurodivergent. So like with that in mind, this really is pretty innovative for Pixar standards. There are a couple things that I do have a problem with here in this short film. Some smaller things, I'd say. For first, there's this use of freeze frames several times throughout the film that I find a little tedious, because I'm having a hard time understanding why that was the best choice to go with. For example, they use freeze frames after there's a scene where the boat that they're on crashes onto the shore. It flips over, and Marcus is very frustrated, and Renee is hiding under the canoe. And so they use freeze frames to show this passage of time, and Marcus standing on the shore, being frustrated with the situation. And my issue here is that it feels more so like they went with freeze frames more so to save time and money, rather than as a very intentional use of them as an uncommon cinematic technique, as they are for that matter. And I guess my final thing too, this isn't, I would say, the biggest deal in the world, but it is something worth noting here, is that this film very much so is about educating audiences about, dare I say, the do's and don'ts about interacting with those who are nonverbal and autistic. So it's a very educational film in that sense, and so with that in mind, it seems to be that this audience more so is made for audience members who do not have autism, rather than for those who do. With this in mind, why I do have a little bit of a problem with this is that I do think it would be even more groundbreaking, instead of just making this for a neurotypical audience, to really go in depth and try to make a film, at least a short film, that would be really appealing for a character like Renee to watch. But with all that said, I still think there's a lot of really great work here in this short film. I think the director, Erica Milsom, really hit this one out of the park, actually. I think she did a very impressive job here. The animation's quite beautiful. The characters are very interesting. And overall, I think it has a very positive, very original message for Pixar standards. I'm feeling a 7.5 out of 10 on this one. Well, anyway, that's the review. Thank you so much for watching. Don't remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment if you'd like. And I'll see you next review.